Alright, so we're checking this for leaks. It appears to have leaked some time ago, but now it looks like it stopped leaking, but there's a bunch of crud everywhere. Anyway, this is what it looks like before and while the bus is running. So now if we turn the defrost on, so it's pretty noisy. Anyway, it's pretty hot right now, so I think there is water going through it, but we're definitely going to get that looked at by a radiator shop. So we're starting to work on the front of the bus. The front of the bus is in pretty bad shape. I mean, it just looks pretty bad. But a couple of we have to address a couple of things before we even think about how we're going to cover this thing. And one of those is this defroster. So it does work. You can see that there's a little bit of corrosion here, and it looks like there's evidence that it has leaked in the past. We just checked it now. We ran the engine and went to the house and ran it and everything, and it does not leak, but it looks terrible, and it definitely needs to be addressed. These heater hoses need to be changed out. You can kind of smell when they get warm. You can kind of smell the heat. The other thing is this proportioning valve, which is down here. This controls the temperature. It basically controls the water flow through this radiator. And by doing that, it changes, you know, kind of how hot or how cold the air coming out of these vents gets. And that is non-functional. So I've tried to push and pull and push and pull, and it doesn't do anything. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and try to remove this thing. We've called a local radiator shop that said that they're willing to take a look at it. So we're going to take it down there and see if they can't clean it up, maybe straighten some of these, straighten some of the veins, as well as pressure test it and fix any kind of leaks that they have. So the first step is trying to remove this thing.
Are you afraid?
A little bit, because what if we can't get it to stop leaking?
Okay, let's hold on.
Ready? I don't think these are...
I mean, is stuff going to start pouring out of here?
Yes.
So...
Right, so you're going to have to...
So, like, you deal with that and I'll try and get this under there?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, small screwdriver? That
There's
little...
the little flathead's right above you?
Yep. Okay. Ready?
Okay, I might need to, like... Oh my god.
How's that?
That's good. We should have done that to start with, I guess.
Is this too big? Nope. All right, so we got the radiator back. I spoke to the guy on the phone a couple of times. What he had suggested is actually just getting a new core. He said this one's in pretty rough shape. It's pretty old. It's gummed up. He's like, I can do what I can, try to fix it up and get all the leaks out and things like that. He said, but really, you should be looking at a new core. So he said he called around and he said they do make them, and he'd have to custom build it, but he could get the core itself for $400 to $500. Then you'd have to get caps and these pipes, and he said in the end, it's going to end up costing somewhere around $700 to $900 in that range. So we said, just go ahead and fix the leaks. Then that'll leave that as an option. How much would that be? And he said, well, I could probably do that for $180. So for $180, he acid washed the whole thing, acid washed the inside, pressure tested it, fixed all the leaks. And so in theory, this radiator should be good to go. However, when we got it back, it looked worse than it looks now. We actually spent about half a day or 3/4 of a day with some vinegar solution with salt and tried to just clean up as much of the oxidation that's in the copper as we could. We got a bunch of it off, but it still does not look great. So this thing does not instill confidence. And so anyway, we thought, well, are we just, this seems like we're fighting a losing battle. This is just the radiator. We still have fans in here that need to be addressed that are, 56 years old. We've got a valve that doesn't work. All the hoses need to be replaced. And so we thought, is there a better option? Is there something else we can do that would either replace this or augment it in some way where, we could still get defrost and heat, but not use this old system? All right, so after we decided we'd try to find a new way to tackle this problem, we went to our groups that we normally go to. So there's a PD4106 group that deals with this specific brand of bus on Facebook, as well as a vintage bus mechanics group on Facebook, and we love those groups. Like, anytime we post a question on there, there's like a flood of information. So we posted about this, kind of gave some pictures of like, okay, here's what the system looks like now. It's in pretty bad shape. And so we got some pretty interesting answers. There was a guy, Christopher, who uses a heater core out of a GM Suburban or a Chevy Suburban, and said that's been working great for him. He actually lives in the snow. Like, I think he lives in Michigan or something, so it's really cold where he's at. And he said he can drive down the road and have the heater on, and it's comfortable in there. There's also another guy called Wayne, and he uses an updated system out of an RTS bus. So an RTS is like a newer transit bus, but they use a different style of heating up front, and it includes air conditioning, which actually dries the air. That was a little too exotic for us, but what he said was, because that housing is all metal and everything's metal down there, what happens is a lot of the heat is lost in that enclosure. And so he said, really, you should be looking for like a plastic housing. He's like, that way you don't lose all your heat in the actual housing itself. It acts like a big heat sink. And so that got us to thinking, and we did look at like Suburbans and a bunch of other stuff, and they're available. You can get them at a junkyard, but they're about $250 even just for a used unit with the motor, and we'd have to then figure out how are we going to get that up into the vents and everything like that. And so then we turned and looked at like aftermarket heating, which Wayne also suggested. He said, call an aftermarket heating place and see what they say. And so we found this little unit. So this one is rated at 40,000 BTUs, which is quite a lot of heat. It's got 3 little outlets, and we think we can fit this guy. It's got its own motor, which is, probably a lot quieter than the 56-year-old motors that are in there. So it's got its own little housing, and this whole thing was, it was $200, and then it was like $20 off or something. So it ended up being even cheaper than trying to retrofit something out of out of an old car or something that was meant to go up under the dash of a newer car. This ended up being cheaper. So they also sell these hose kits, and these are also like a plastic, they're designed to work with this, and they have Ys and vents and things like that. And so I think this is what we're going to go with. The one smallish issue is that, well, there's a couple. One is this is 5/8 inch hose, and our original was 3/4. That's not a big deal. They make these couplers that are fairly inexpensive. You just, one size goes in, it reduces it, it's just like a reducer. But the bigger problem is when this bus had its original heat, there was a pump in the bay that would help circulate that hot water to get it, to help the pump in the very back pump all the way to the front and then all the way to the back. So what we decided to get for that was this is actually a pump from a Toyota Prius. And so the cool thing about this pump is it's all brushless and magnetic. And so if you were to take this apart, it's all solid state. There's just a little magnetic impeller that floats on there, and these flow really well and they last forever. It was also only, I think, $25 or $30. So they're awesome little pumps. So anyway, they don't draw a ton of power. So I think it draws 1.4 amps. So anyway, we're going to try this. We've seen that if you look online, there's actually people that make fountains out of these. They run them at 12 volts and have a solar thing and make fountains out of these and power fountains. But anyway, we got some clamps. We've got hoses. So we bought all high quality silicone hoses. So we looked into it a bit, and they're a little bit more expensive, but they last a lot longer. So silicone hoses are rated for about 20 years, whereas regular rubber hoses are rated for about 5 years. So we decided go ahead and get the silicone hoses. We just need a short little run of both. And so we're going to wire in this pump, so that should help with the circulation. And then we're going to see if we can make this little heater unit work up underneath in there. So we made initial measurements and tried to see if, like, mentally we could fit it in there. And I think there's going to be room. It's going to be just enough. So hopefully it'll fit. All right, so the first thing we're trying to do is take all these hoses off. And some of these ones in the back are original. If we look under here, this one has kind of turned into a mummy. You see, oh man, that's really bad. So yeah, so I'm gonna go get a mask. So I'm gonna get a mask and pull that thing out. But I'm sort of glad we're figuring all this out. Oh. Okay. Pull this off. Yeah, pretty bad. There you go. All right, so here's what we pulled out of there. So it's pretty awful. It's just literally like turning to dust. So I'm sure at one point this was rubber with reinforced metal. So anyway, I'm glad we're replacing all this stuff, and this is, before we threw this away, we wanted to show you the condition it was in. Pretty awful. So anyway. Okay. Pull that through. I'm going to take these off so we don't lose them. Go ahead and pull this through. Yeah, see that hose is preventing it from going up any further.
The floor is preventing it from sliding.
Right. That. I'm close.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm trapped on something.
Okay. Looks like maybe down here.
We're caught here. Can we? Shoot. Oh, I got it. Hold on. I kind of got it pushed up, but now it may be kind of trapped right here. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of shoved it up and it moved, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay, I'm trying up and out. Okay, can you kind of untangle me?
Okay, I'm gonna drop this.
I can't.
I know. Get that. You get that out.
What's going on here? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, another yuck.
Seriously, like, why is that thing all bent up?
Because someone tried to get it out like we just did.
Oh my gosh! Look at that. What a mess.
All right, well, slight change of plans. This is the pump we bought, and we thought that getting the little connector, the little electrical connector for that would be pretty simple. Like they would just have those at AutoZone. I don't know why I thought that, but that's what I thought. Turns out, no, they don't sell those. Nobody does. So what we ended up doing is finding a used one. So here's the used one at a local pick-apart place. So you go in with your own tools. There's crashed cars everywhere. They tell you where the car you want is. So this is out of a 2009 Toyota Prius that was presumably wrecked. So hopefully the pump still works. We're going to check it here in a little bit. But we ended up getting the wiring harness and the pump for $12. So I think we bought this one for $35. So we're going to send this one back. We don't need it anymore because now we have this one. So we're going to give this one a go. We're going to plug it in, make sure it works, and then this will be the one that'll go in our system. That's it. Okay.
That worked.